The past few days mark a major success in terms of Israeli foreign relations because the California legislature has passed an anti-BDS bill. The BDS movement has become more and more influential over the past couple of years and is causing major damage not only to Israel but also to the Palestinian Authority. So how is the Israeli government combating it? Joining us today in the studio is Knesset member Sheran Heskel with an answer. Thanks so much for coming in.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, to begin, can you please elaborate on the damage that is caused by the BDS movement, not only to Israel, but also to the PA?
So there's a few goals that they would want to aim to. I mean, the fight against BDS is a fight against the existence of Israel. They have many pro-Palestinian groups, many Arab countries who are surrounding us as well. They've tried to eliminate this state of Israel, to eliminate our country through different wars, collective wars, through terror. And they understood that through violence, terror, war, they will not defeat us. Even though they were outnumbered, we were outnumbered and they had stronger armies. By force, we were not beaten and were not defeated. So they went into a completely different front. And this is what BDS and more pro-Palestinian movements are doing. Instead of fighting us through violence and terror, they decided to take a new front. One of them is an economic boycott, which means that the state of Israel will not be able to survive without a strong economy. We don't have any natural resources, and so we're relying on trade, on import, export, on developing different fields like medical, technology, research, and more so. They understood that if they are able to cut that, to destroy our economy, maybe then they'll be able to eliminate Israel. And so this is a fight on our economy. The other front is about our reputation, about the right of Israel to exist, on how Israel is being perceived through the eyes of the international community, of other communities, of other countries. And it's very important. Why? They're trying to distort facts. They are bringing information who is based on pure lies, on propaganda, on partial truth, in order to change the way people view Israel. And by doing that, it will create a state where other people, other countries who we are in alliance with will not support Israel. Different community who works together with Israel will push them away.
So the BDS movement, though, it also is having a negative impact on Palestinians as well, not only Israel. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. I mean, look, when you look on their agenda, they don't speak about two-state solution. They don't speak about coexistence, a Jewish state. This is outside of their vocabulary. They speak about Israel being taken from Palestinians in 48, speaking about that Haifa and Tel Aviv, and the entire Israel is Palestinian. It has to be liberated. It has to be liberated from Jews, from this Jewish state idea that we created. And so we need to understand that this is what they're actually combating. All of Israel, Jews, not just in Israel. You can see it even outside of the world. Doing that, they're not harming just Israelis and just the Jewish community in Israel or overseas. They're also harming Palestinians. I'll give you an example. There was a factory of SodaStream. Many people know this story. It's the easiest one. They had a factory in Judea and Samaria. And because of a lot of pressure from the BDS movement and other pro-Palestinian movements to boycott SodaStream, they started declining, their sales were declining. Now, in this factory, you had Jews and Israelis from different agendas working together with Palestinians. Hundreds of Palestinians were employed in that factory. Because of that the sales were decreasing, they had to move the factory outside. They moved it towards the south, close by to a few Bedouin and a few Jewish cities around there. And unfortunately, they had to fire hundreds of Palestinian workers. Now, you need to understand these workers, sometimes they'll earn 5 times more in those factories than what they would earn under the Palestinian Authority, because they are under the laws of Israel. And we have quite good social labor laws. There's a threshold of how much you're allowed to pay, or like what's the minimum wage, and that will apply to them as well. So they would actually benefit much more. They would be able to provide for their families if they need to purchase food, education, etc.
And then because of the boycott of SodaStream, these people lost their jobs.
Absolutely. And that happened in many factories as well around Judea and Samaria, unfortunately. And so it massively affects Palestinians as well.
So, we saw what just happened a week ago. World Vision, organization, was found to be laundering actually money for Hamas, or representatives as part of this organization that were taking money that was supposed to be for Palestinians in need and using it to enhance Hamas's military wing. How does this relate to the BDS movement, if at all?
Well, the BDS movement and the pro-Palestinian groups see Hamas as a legitimate government, as the government of the Palestinian people. They don't treat them as a terror organization. And if you look on Hamas, they have murdered any kind of opposition. They've suppressed any kind of other minorities around the Gaza Strip. They are shooting rockets and missiles towards Israeli cities. Just today, this afternoon, there was rockets shot towards Sderot. Children, mothers, in the middle of a school vacation had to run into bomb shelters because Hamas is shooting rockets towards Israeli cities. And they think this is a legitimate government, a government who's using violence and terror against someone else. And so they support them. They support them morally. They support who they are. They would like to promote them. Now, Hamas was able to infiltrate World Vision, which is a humanitarian organization. Can you imagine what consequences that would give? It means that they stole millions of dollars from people who really believe that that goes towards humanitarian aid, to help starving people. And you know where they stole this money to? To build terror tunnels, to buy more weapons, to buy more rocket launchers, to send more missiles. The missile today that went into Sderot was probably funded by an innocent Australian, England, or United States citizens, either taxpayer or just by volunteer, because he believed that that goes towards food, towards sanitarian packaging to those people. He didn't know that they infiltrated this organization and bought rockets with this money to harm and hurt innocent people. And this is what BDS supports as well, by supporting the Hamas government, unfortunately.
It doesn't sound very pro-peace to me. So, as a Knesset member, an active member of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committees here in Israel, what tools can the State of Israel be using to combat the BDS movement?
Well, we have many tools. I think one of the main ones is our diplomatic field, where many of our embassies are keeping track of what's happening around their locations. They're sending this information to us, and they're combating it on the spot. It means that if they know there's a specific event, or if the Jewish community is being hurt by activists in those movements, then we address it. Then we turn into our diplomatic sphere, and we work it this way. More so, we send delegations, and we bring delegations here to Israel as well. I think that's the most important tool, because, look, the BDS can fight with this propaganda and these lies in communities and people that don't know the facts, they don't know the geography, they don't know the history, and they don't know what's happening in Israel. If I tell you today that in Timbuktu there's this dictator who's committing a genocide in these people, he's a racist dictator and everything, you won't have any information to combat me with, because you don't really know Timbuktu, you don't know the history, history, you don't know the geography, you don't know what's happening there. And so when someone comes and tells you something so alarming and so upsetting like that, you get into it.
You internalize it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think one of the biggest weapons is to bring the truth out, to bring the real information about our history, about what Israel really is. I mean, if we looked on the fact, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. Our neighborhood is a very tough neighborhood. All of the minorities around, in those countries who are around us, are being suppressed, are being genocided, are being murdered. I mean, we've seen what's happening with ISIS, with Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Iran. I mean, where do these minorities, do they really have a place in those countries? No. Israel is this only country where all Israeli citizens, and it doesn't matter from what religion you are, it doesn't matter if you're Christian or Muslim or Bedouin or Druze, you're treated equally in our country. I mean, they take part in every aspect of our society. If it's our medical field, the head of the Nahariya hospital, he's from an Arab minority. They serve as doctors and nurses in our hospitals. If you look on our judging system, lawyers, judges in our Supreme Court, there's a judge from an Arab minority. Can you imagine in one of our countries around us, someone from a minority serving at the Supreme Court? Let's take Iran. Would Iran have a Jewish in their Supreme Court, a Jew sitting there? Would Syria have it? Or, you know what, even the Palestinian Authority. We have, minorities in our parliament. We have a party called the Arab List. They hold 12 seats in our parliament. It means that 10% of all the seats in Israel that are representative in the Israeli parliament are from these Arab minorities. Would you imagine a Jewish parliamentarian in any one of those other countries? Yet they choose to call Israel this racist, this apartheid. But they can only spread it where there's communities and people who don't know the truth. They don't have the information, they don't know the history, they don't know the politics. And our fight is to bring the truth out. And we do that with delegations, with our ambassadors, and more so with all of these amazing organizations like Stand With Us, like, Israel United Front with Israel, with America United Front with Israel, with the Christian Ally Caucus, and many more incredible organizations who do such an important work with bringing this truth out.
Well, if somebody wants to learn how to combat BDS, just come here and sit with Knesset member Sheran. She will teach you what to say. Thank you so much for coming in.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.